Hello, welcome to Sky Sweaty Record Review, episode 91. It's the only new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the gym. Now, I'm going to be reviewing an album by Karen O and Danger Mouse called Lux Prima. But before I do, I want to talk about a 1992 comedy starring Brendan Fraser and Pauly Shore. The movie is called Encino Man. Now, in this movie, Brendan Fraser was frozen like in a convenience store. I don't know exactly how it worked. He was like a Neanderthal, and then Pauly Shore, the comedian, while getting like a smoothie, Easy the juice, he like finds him, and it's sort of like a fish out of water thing where he tries to teach Brendan Fraser, the caveman, how to be like in the modern era. It was a long debate back then amongst the girls that I knew, the very few girls that I knew, who was hotter, Brendan Fraser or Pauly Shore. So you tell me your vote in the comments. Who's hotter, Pauly Shore or Brendan Fraser? I bring it up because when you say the names Karen O and Danger Mouse to me, it makes me realize I am Rip Van Winkle. I am the Encino Man. I remember very much when the Yeah Yeah Yeahs came out in 2003. It was right at that phase where I was just out of college and getting back together with my ex-girlfriend, future wife, future ex-wife. Like, I was getting all this stuff all together, and like I didn't have that much time for new music, and I'd already decided that new music was bad. And I remember hearing the Yeah Yeah Yeahs and thinking, okay, I can get with this. This is okay. And I bought the CD, and I listened to it, and I liked it, and then poof. I never listened to them again. I never saw them in concert. I have no idea. A year later, this album, the Grey Album, comes out, and it was like back in the sort of days of the 90s when you could... a different way of getting music for free back then. I'll explain it sometime. Or actually look it up. I wasn't really doing that. Look up all that Napster garbage. It's interesting. At that point, it was LimeWire. And it was this mashup of the White Album and the Black Album by Jay-Z, by Danger Mouse. And I thought it was cool and underground, and it wasn't accepted, and it wasn't like monetized. And it was this dude whose name was Danger Mouse, and I used to watch the cartoon Danger Mouse when I was a kid, and it had this like really cool feel. And then poof, I just let him disappear off my radar. I think he was in Gnarls Barkley, which my then wife liked that album, I think. I was sort of vaguely aware that he was still working, but I didn't really pay attention. And that's what happens with new music. As you get older, it's amazing the amount of time that can expand before you think about it again. It's been 16 years, 15 years since I've thought about these two artists, and here I am on my goofy YouTube show bringing them together. Or they brought themselves together, and I'm here to analyze them. My general review of this album is it's a very pleasant listen. It's very well produced. It's amazingly produced, in fact. There's a pretty consistent, beautiful mixture of synthetic sounds and acoustic sounds, but not just guitar, like full orchestra. I believe it's all real strings with conductors and everything. It has a nice sort of general retro feel, a sort of lack of genre throughout. At times it feels like it's retro soul, at times it feels like it's retro R&B, at times it feels like it's just kind of modern electronica. My problem, and this is my question for the whole album, I'm going to be introducing another term. Once again, the first one is Encino Man. Who's hotter? Brendan Fraser or Pauly Shore? That used to be a really hard question. My other new term is too much French fries, not enough shake. That line comes from Capadonna, an associate of the Wu-Tang Clan, and I don't know what he meant it. Probably something sexual or drug-related, I don't know. But ever since I first heard that line, I've associated that with style over substance. Does this album have too much style, French fries, and not enough substance, shake? Is it just a well-produced album with a good singer and tight songwriting? Is there anything there to really grab a hold of? The whole album, I was trying to figure out yes or no. Spoiler, the answer is yeah. Not a firm yes, but a yeah. But that only became clear to me at the last song. So let me take you through the album a little bit. Not every track, but many tracks. Starting with the opening track, Lux Prima, which I believe means first light. And this is an interesting track because I said the word track 75 times in the last 3 minutes. It's an interesting song because it really it lays out the entire breadth of the album, the way the album is going to be. I'll play a little bit of the very beginning here with this nice layered instrumental with orchestra and keyboard and Karen O's voice in the back. You hear that? The keyboard and the strings. And then this bit comes in. And you hear how this has this kind of nice retro feel to it. And this first song is really quite nice. It's actually a little bit more... It reminds me a little bit actually of Isaac Hayes, which is one of the highest compliments I can give to music, in the way that it's a song that just extends out. It's 9 minutes. Different parts come in and come out. Some parts are a little bit up, some parts are a little bit down, but it's a very extended out song. It's not in a rush to get where it's going. The middle part of the song has this kind of really nice poppy bit. Whoops, I'll get there in a second. Here, it comes in. This is an example of the amazing clarity of Karen O's voice. You know, she doesn't really hide her voice very much, and it's very clear. Every word, you almost feel like the microphone is in her mouth, and you can kind of hear it. And this nicely produced drums, kind of a nice snap to it. Okay, I'll stop talking so you can hear it for a second.
No eyes open, no eyes closed, no smoke on your breath, no eyes closed, no sun on the glass, no darkness, no eyes, nobody but you.
See, that's really nice. You know, I heard it and I liked it. And the whole album is really in that vein. So if you liked what you heard, definitely have a listen. I started to get this problem though, like what's she really saying? No eyes open, no eyes closed, I guess. The next song, Ministry, is really nice. It's got an interesting guitar that's a little bit like off rhythm. Like maybe it's in 7/8 and the rest of the song's in 4/4. I don't quite know what it is. I'm not good enough a musician to know. But interested syncopated rhythms, and the song appears to be about like the love of a woman. So I'm sort of like, is this album like about sort of like being in love with a woman and like passion for a woman? I don't really know. An interesting song like Turn the Light. Again, it's like she says, you know, I go out at night and I paint the stars. It's like, it's pretty, but like what's it saying? It's not quite poetic enough to just be words. And it's not quite meaningful enough to be like an expression of her life. Is it too much French fries? Not enough shake. Like, what is the substance of this album? The next track is called Woman. And I'm like, here we go. It's going to be like a statement about womanhood or feminism in the Trump age or whatever. And it's just sort of a song about, I think, being in love with a woman, which I guess is interesting, but not that interesting. This is the most kind of throwback song. If you hear, I'll play it for a second. I mean, it's like so much like a Phil Spector song from the 60s. I mean, it's a little bit annoying even. Listen to the drum beat here. So very willfully sounding like girl bands of the 60s. It even gets worse in the chorus. I'll get there. One second. One second. One second. One second. One second. You know, forget it. That was really unsatisfying. But they even do the full-on Be My Baby beat at one point. Doom, 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 ka, doom, 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 ka. That was better than me scanning through. Said nobody. So like I was left a little bit cold, you know. It actually reminded me of a different album, a different artist who I've Encino Man on, Mark Ronson. I remember when his album came out in 2007, Version, and it was a huge deal. And it was like, oh my God, this guy's like making albums like Phil Spector, and he's Amy Winehouse, and everything sounds like old and new and old, and oh, it's so great. But what's there? Like, is it just like recreating a style, or is there actually something there? A really great case of too much French fries, not enough shake. A couple other interesting tracks. Leopard Tongue is an interesting. All right, so my phone just rang, so I'm gonna be editing these things together. So it might be kind of like gauzy because I forgot to turn off my phone. But I'm not re-recording the first 10 minutes of this thing. I gotta go see my tax guy. Yeah, the whole thing about me being like a dad dude, like that's not an act. It's very real. I'm very much a dad dude. So the song Leopard Tongue is an interesting song because it's really quite, it's the most sort of overtly sexual, but it's not like really overt. It's all like, I got a leopard tongue in your serpent's mouth. It's not quite clear what it is. It has some really nice production on there of like the guitar mirroring the vocals. And then as the album started to close up, right, it's a pretty tight album, it's only 9 songs, the song Reverie comes on. And that's like an acoustic guitar, which is a little bit nice. It's a nice break. It's just mainly her and acoustic guitar, and then it gets layered in. Very well layered album. And Reverie becomes about like daydreams. And I start to play things back. And then we get to the last song, Nox Lumina, which is probably my favorite track on the album, although not the most exemplary, so I didn't play it for you. So Lux Prima, First Light, Nox Lumina, I believe that means night light. In Rochester, there are 2 bars, Lux and Nox. I never thought about them as being connected. They probably are. And this is a really nice song. First of all, it breaks one of my primary rules, which is all songs with rainmakers or chimes are immediately terrible. This has rainmakers and chimes, and it's a good song. Rules are made to be broken. It's my favorite mixture of synthetic and analog. A really nice kind of crunchy snare sound that is intentionally electronic sounding, which just I like because the rest of it's so well produced. And then I realized what the song's all about. It's all about daydreaming and solitude. And then I play everything back and realize this whole album has been about light and dark. And the first lines, no eyes open, no eyes closed. Oh, it's a dream. And these songs about these lovers are probably a fantasy. The whole thing just feels like you're listening to somebody else tell a dream. And that sounds bad. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's an interesting way. A weird thing happened last night where I talked to one of my brothers, and he told me about this dream that he had. And I won't go into the dream. And it was interesting because I care about my brother and because I know him really well. And so I was able to read in to the mythology, and I know what dreams mean to him and how it could work together. If I didn't know him, though, I don't know how interested I would be. So maybe that's the problem with lyrical content here. Is I'm not that invested in whoever Karen O is. Maybe if I was more invested in her, I'd be trying to decipher the meaning of everything. So it's kind of like someone else's dream. And then the weirdest thing is my brother called me back like 20 minutes later. He had no idea what I'm reviewing. He doesn't like the show. Well, he's never watched it because he doesn't want to watch me sweat. And by the way, I smell bad right now. You didn't need to know that, but I really smell. And he's like, Sky, good news. I managed to find the Grey album. I've been looking for it for years, but I found it on some seller on Amazon. It's definitely a bootleg, but I'm happy to have it, and I'll copy it for you. I was like, what kind of weird Encino Man monkey business is this? I haven't thought about Danger Mouse in 16 years, and the same day that I review it is the same time that my brother talks to me about a dream and then talks to me about getting the album. So I don't know. What does that mean? Nothing. It's a coincidence. That has no substance, but it's a funny story. Okay, so my final review, I think I'm just going to call this album A Neat Dream. That's really quite well produced and interesting. I look forward to seeing what Karen O does in the future, and Danger Mouse. I probably have been wrong. Oh wait, this wasn't intentional, but this is slick. I probably was wrong to have slept on them for so long. Sorry. Okay. Remember to vote Fraser or Shore in the comments, or don't. Listening to new music is the fountain of mental youth. There's the camera, and now I gotta edit this thing together. Damn it, Sky, turn off the phone.